I loved to read as a child, and I always imagined having children who would also love to read and get lost in a good book. But as I shared in episode 63, my oldest daughter really struggled to learn to read. And during that process, not only did she not love to read, she started to have very negative feelings about reading. Luckily, both of my girls ultimately became great readers, and while I wouldn't say they love to read like I did as a child, we have certainly found books that they really enjoy and that they resist putting down when I go in and tell them it's time to turn out the lights. So that is a positive. I know that over the last few years, I am always looking for good book recommendations. And as they get older, they are now starting to get book recommendations from friends as well. Recently, I asked my girls what books they would like to recommend to your elementary age children. They were excited to share these recommendations with you. And so that's what we're going to do today. I hope some of these books will capture your children's imagination and leave them not wanting to put the book down. Hi, I'm Allison Egidi, a pediatric sleep and wellness coach and a mom of two. I love to help parents find solutions. This is How Long Till Bedtime. I'm excited to share the books my daughters wanted to recommend to you all because as they rattled off these titles, I found myself smiling. These are the books that really captured their imagination and sucked them in. My daughter Ainsley is 9 years old, and as I'm recording this, she is just getting ready to finish up 3rd grade. My daughter Allison is 11 years old and just finishing up 5th grade. I want to note, however, that their book recommendations are books that they've read throughout elementary school. So as I go through them, I'm going to do my best to recall exactly when I remember them reading these books, and then that will help you with knowing what age group I think they're appropriate for. And before I dive in, I want to note that I will go ahead and link to all of their recommendations in the show notes. Addison, my 11-year-old, was the first to share her recommendations with me. Her first one really made me smile because it was a series that someone recommended to me back when she was in kindergarten. That's when we realized that while she was really struggling to learn how to read, her reading comprehension was really high. This was leading to a lot of frustration because they were giving her very basic books to help teach her to read, and she found them very boring and therefore was saying, "I don't like reading." So after a friend recommended the Magic Treehouse series, I decided to just start reading them to her. That book series truly helped her realize how a good story can suck you in. If you're not familiar with this very popular series, it's about a brother and sister who discover that their treehouse can magically transport them through time and around the world. They go on wild and exciting adventures, and there's just enough suspense for young kids. I ultimately read Addison all 63 books. I had to look up how many there were. And once she was able to read, this is the series that she actually went back to. She didn't read every single one again, but she went to her favorite books and she read them to herself. And that's really the only time I can think of her reading a book twice, so I think that's noteworthy. And when she shared this recommendation with me, we were in the car, and Ainsley immediately said, "Oh, definitely," because Ainsley also read the entire series. With Ainsley, I think I started reading it to her when she was in kindergarten as well, but she learned to read very quickly. And before the series was over, we were co-reading the books. So it was a little bit different experience. She would read a few pages to me at night, and then I would read a few pages to her. I think the Magic Treehouse series are great books to read to your children as they're in kindergarten. They're starting to learn to read in that kind of kindergarten, first grade couple of years. They're great to help kids see what reading can look like and then transition them into reading with you. So I would say my girls enjoyed these books the most kind of in that kindergarten to second grade window. The current series that Addison is hooked on, so she's my fifth grader, just finishing up fifth grade, is Keeper of the Lost Cities. And this is definitely more advanced elementary age reading, both because of the length. Each of these books is 700 to 800 pages long. It's nuts. And because of the content. This fantasy series is about a 12-year-old girl who is a telepath and discovers that she's an elf living in a human world. This is a series that I had seen recommended for fifth graders by several librarians that I follow online, and Addison had had a few friends at school who were raving about these books. I still enjoy reading to Addison at night, so I have often laid in her bed and read a handful of pages to her and listened to her read to me. And I have to tell you that these books aren't my personal cup of tea because I'm not really a huge fantasy person. And frankly, and this is probably in part because she reads a lot by herself and I'm not following the whole storyline, but I find it challenging to read these books with all of the names and all of the varying storylines going on at the same time. But I have loved seeing Addison so engaged with this series. And I love that she and her fifth grade friends have these books that they all like and can talk about. So they're so excited when they talk a new friend into reading them and they get someone else sucked in. And so what more do we want than to have our kids wanting to talk to each other about books? So if you have a fifth grader who is starting to get bored with reading, this is definitely a series that's worth checking out. The other series that Addison wanted to recommend is one that I'm not personally as familiar with because it's a series that Addison and my husband are reading together. It's the Spy School series, and it's about a boy and his adventures being a junior CIA spy. Addison and my husband both really enjoy this series, and while I personally haven't read any of the books, I will say that I do recommend the whole concept of co-reading with your children. Mike and I both really enjoy that time of sitting and enjoying books with our girls and being able to talk about what we think will happen next or what we liked or didn't like about a book. And both of our girls kind of will say, this is the book I'm reading with mom, or I'm reading this with dad. And so they enjoy that co-reading experience. You know, I know that the day is probably just around the corner where Addison won't want us to sit and take turns reading with her. But I just want to encourage all of you parents out there to stick with co-reading, that reading together as long as you can. I think it's really helped Addison shift from not liking reading at all, strongly disliking it and finding it very discouraging, to enjoying a great book. Okay, on to Ainsley's recommendations. Just like with Addison, I asked Ainsley for 3 recommendations, but she really wanted to give 4. And that's on top of wanting you to know that she also totally endorses Addison's Magic Treehouse recommendation. So the series Ainsley has enjoyed the most in 3rd grade has been the Emily Windsnap series. I've co-read these books with her, and they are very cute and include some adventure, but they're not too stressful. The series is about a girl named Emily who is a real-life mermaid. She lives on a boat, but discovers that when she gets in the water, she becomes a mermaid, so she's navigating living between 2 worlds. I think it's a great series for that 3rd grade group. The other book she wanted to recommend was one that she read in 2nd grade called The One and Only Ivan. This book is told from the perspective of a gorilla who lives in a shopping mall exhibit. Ainsley loved this book, but I will tell you that it did make her cry. This book has humor and lessons on friendships, and it includes animals with unique personalities, which I think a lot of children are drawn to. But it's worth noting that it also includes death, and saying goodbye, so it has some very sad parts. Addison, for example, read the description and immediately knew that she didn't want to read the book. Ainsley was curious about it and wanted to read it, and even though it made her cry, she loved it and would say it's one of the best books she's ever read. Okay, another lighthearted series that Ainsley wants to recommend is the Whatever After series, which is about a brother and sister who discover they have a magic mirror in their basement that can take them into old fairy tales. All the classics like Cinderella. When they go through the magic mirror, they become part of the story and they need to solve problems along the way while trying not to mess up the ending of the fairy tale. This is a cute series. Someone gifted it to us, and it's not a stressful or emotional read. It's just kind of fun. The last one that Ainsley wanted to recommend is an oldie but goodie, and that's the Harry Potter books. We have had these books in our basement forever and ever, and while the girls had seen a few of the movies, they had not read the books. Addison thought the movies were kind of stressful enough, and she said that she knew the books would probably be even more stressful because they have a lot more detail, and to her, that didn't really sound very fun, even though she liked the movies. But Ainsley wanted to give them a go, so we've been co-reading the books with Ainsley. And I just want to tell you that as a sleep coach, I would definitely put the Harry Potter books in that category of you know your child best. And if you think these books will cause bad dreams or anxiety, do not rush to have your child read them in elementary school. But if you have a child like Ainsley who isn't prone to anxiety or nightmares, they can be a really fun co-read for your family. All right, there you have it. Those are the books my daughters wanted to recommend to all of your elementary age children looking for some good summer reads. And they would love to hear if your children have a favorite book or series that they should consider reading. Shoot me a DM on Instagram and let me know. My handle is @Sleep and Wellness Coach. All right, happy summer reading, everyone. Bye for now. Thank you for listening to How Long Till Bedtime. To learn how we can work together to improve your child's sleep, please visit sleepandwellnesscoach.com.